12 o'clock, high noon, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. May I get an approval of the agenda? And thank you. All in favor? Passes unanimously, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes, that the minutes of Appeal Committee meeting number 06-2023 held on Monday, September 18th, 2023 be approved. Thank you, and the reverse. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, anyone? None, great. Delegations, none. Briefings, none. We'll move straight to business. New appeals, 5 Cataraqui Street. And first, can we have the way this is going to go, we're going to listen to the property standards officer, who's going to give us the reasons for the order. Then we're going to hear, then we may ask questions. Then we will ask the appellants for their reasons why we need to give an exemption. And then we will ask you questions, then we will deliberate as a committee and render a judgment. So first, may we ask Mr. Joe Harry, please, to give us the justification for keeping the order intact.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will introduce myself. I am Officer Joe Harry with the City of Kingston's Property Standards Department. I've been an officer here for approximately 4 years. With the matter of 5 Cataraqui Street today, order number CEPS 2023-04707. If we could move to the next slide with the order timeline, please. So on the 22nd of June, 2023, we did receive a complaint regarding the overall condition of the property at 5 Cataraqui Street. On the 27th of June, an initial inspection of the property was carried out with a large number of property standards violations noted at the time. On the 27th as well of June 2023, a notice of violation was issued with an initial compliance date for the 13th of August 2023. On the 22nd of August 2023, the property was re-inspected for compliance with the notice of violation that had been issued, and no progress was observed. On the 29th of August 2023, I did issue an order to remedy for this property with a compliance date of September 30th, 2023. September 11th, we did actually receive an additional complaint from another resident of the area regarding this property, and the property was re-inspected for compliance on October 2nd, 2023. At that time, I did observe that with the remaining structure on the property, there had been some boarding put up to mitigate access into the actual structure, but no other work had been completed at that time. And to date, I have had 0 correspondence from the property owners. If we could go to the next slide. So with regards to this property, I did note 3 violations in kind of in the interest of keeping it a little more straightforward, as there are a large number of violations here. The first violation being with rubbish and debris on the property. There is a large amount of debris from a demolition that took place, including concrete, scrap metal, wood, etc. And we did ask that all debris are removed from the lands. The second violation noted, this is a large property in the city of Kingston off of Cataraqui Street. It fronts onto Orchard and River Streets. There is a large amount of grass both on the developed part of the property as well as further back in the acreage that has not been maintained. And we require that grass, weeds, and undergrowth be cut and cleared from the lands. The third violation we did use, given the large amount of property standards concerns and the fact that the property currently sits vacant, would be 4.47, that the owner of a vacant property shall maintain the property in accordance with this bylaw or demolish such buildings and the site left in a graded and level condition in compliance with other parts of this bylaw. We did require, as the required repairs, that lands and structures be maintained as to comply with the property standards bylaw or be demolished in accordance with the demolition control bylaw, property standards bylaw, and any other relevant legislation. Yeah, if we could go to the next slide, please. So this just shows kind of the property outline here. First of all, fronting onto Cataraqui Street with, as you can see from the overhead, the demolished building and then the remaining structure, and then proceeds further back into more of a gravel area and then into the grassy area in behind. If we could go to the next slide, I'll go through some pictures from our final inspection that took place. So with this first slide of pictures here, it is showing some of the debris that we're looking at on this property as far as concrete left from the demolition, some scrap metal, and then a pile of assorted debris, some concrete, some wood, etc. If we could proceed to the next slide. So this selection of pictures is going to be what remains of the industrial building that was demolished. Currently, there is still a large amount of debris remaining in the foundation there, as well as in some spots, some safety concerns. If you look to the bottom left picture, for example, where there are open holes into what I assume would be the subfloor underneath, where somebody could potentially fall and be injured. And that is a commonality throughout what's left of this foundation that was demolished. If we could go to the next slide. This is just kind of a generality of some of the other concerns with the remaining structure, large amounts of graffiti, untreated wood coverings, damage to soffits, gutters, etc., and as well as broken windows. If we could go to the next slide. So this is showing again, there is a smaller structure in the back that appears to have been left in the initial demolition. Again, graffiti throughout, damage to the walls, damage to fencing throughout the property, allowing site access. More debris in the lower picture that was left over from demolition. And in the top right picture, kind of an idea of what the current situation looks like with regards to grass, undergrowth, etc. in the lands. If we could go to the next slide. So as part of this, I am aware that this is part of an ongoing development within the city of Kingston. There was a planning committee that took place on the 7th of September, 2023. And as part of the question and answer period with that committee meeting, there were a number of questions brought forward that did apply directly to my case, specifically with the long-standing piles of debris on the property and the remains of former buildings. One point of note that the city environmental staff did advise that the storage or removal of the piles of construction waste would not be prohibited by current brownfields regulations or under the Environmental Protection Act, so they wouldn't be able to be removed. In addition, there was another question raised about the grass and the current condition of that property, and the appellant did note in that they had retained a maintenance company or contracting company to maintain that property, and to date, I do not think that has taken place. If we could go to the next slide. So as a new update to this file today as well, there was an order to comply issued by the City of Kingston's building department as the industrial structure that remained on the, or that was demolished on the property was done so without a permit. And they will be following up on that aspect while we deal more with the cleanup of the lands as they currently sit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Just clarification, did you say there is a brownfield element to it, which would require specialized remedial action, or it's not required?
There is a brownfield element to it. That I believe that falls into play more with the full development of the property with the appellant's intended use. As far as the in its current state is the removal of the debris and what was demolished there, it was noted by the environmental staff that there would be no concerns with the brownfield regulations. It would not be prohibited by the current regulation.
So under the current bylaws, the building structures, should they be secured until demolished and basically boarded up? Should it be fenced around that to prohibit access for?
So as part of the building department's order to comply, they are requiring that construction fencing is erected to secure the site with signage posted stating danger and do not enter. So yes, it should be secured.
And Is that signage and fencing there?
I believe this was issued this morning, so I'm not sure what the timeline looks on that yet.
Thank you. Anyone else from the committee? Councilor Oosterhoff, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for the delay. Yeah, thanks for that report. I just wondering out loud if I read it all right. I had thought that this was no longer going to be what is the ask here again? What that this would be carried out? Is that what is the ask again? Can I have clarity on that?
From a property standards perspective,
Yes,
Councilor Stock?
yes.
Yes. So the ask from the city at this time is that that the debris from the demolition that took place is removed from the property, and the property is maintained within all aspects of the property standards bylaw.
Okay, understood. And through the chair, has there been rationale why this hasn't been done? Is it just like because they're waiting for the construction to, or why hasn't it been done? This is a local.
That'll be the next point.
Okay.
The appellants.
Oh, okay. All right. I have a lot of respect for the family and everything, so I just hope that I just want to make sure things have been clear. So thank you for that. I'll wait for more questions and answers, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. Okay, so now we will turn to the appellant to give us reasons why things haven't been done, or reasons why you need more time.
Good afternoon. I'll start by introducing myself through you, Mr. Chair. My name is Yuko Leclerc. I'm the appellant's planner, so I'm working on their planning approvals. And I submitted a letter that's in the package with sort of an outline of the reasons why the compliance hasn't taken place yet with those two orders 1 and 3. My understanding is that the vegetation had been cleared. There's a contract in place to clear sort of brush and grass on a monthly basis. But certainly I see the photos that the officer has shared. So I think we'll have to do some follow-up on that to make sure that actually follows through. With items 1 and 3, the story, sort of the history there is that the property is in fact contaminated. The applicant and the owner has undertaken an environmental site assessment, which is the required environmental study that will form the basis of a community improvement plan application. So seeking funding under the city's brownfields program for financial assistance in remediating the site. And that study could not be completed until the draft approval was received, because one of the components of that study is the phasing of the development, which was reliant on sort of council approval. We had always proposed, we've been proposing phasing for some time, but until that council sort of draft approval for the subdivision occurred, we couldn't say for certain that the property lines would be where we were proposing that they would be. So once that draft approval took place, the environmental engineer was able to complete the environmental site assessment and is right now working on the community improvement plan submission. We're expecting it to go in the next week and a half, as they sort of finalize their estimates of the amount of remediation that take place, as well as the costing associated with that remediation. It's understood that the debris that's on the site could have been removed at any time, but there is a lot of debris and it will be very costly to remove. And therefore, the applicant has been seeking to include the removal of that debris with the overall remediation plan for the entirety of the site through the brownfields funding. So that's why the debris is still there. It's been sorted by material, broadly speaking, which is what those different piles are: concrete, metals, woods. And that was in accordance with sort of initial direction that had been received. I'm not sure if that came from city staff or from the environmental engineer. But the intention is absolutely to comply with this order. This land will be redeveloped. And we're just asking for a bit more time, asking for another 6 months for that community improvement plan application to go through its process of review and ultimately, hopefully, council approval to open up funding for the remediation, which will include clearing of the debris on the site. The new order, the one regarding the demolition permit, this is certainly news to me, and I'll have to look at that and see what we can do to comply. I understand that the requirement, there will be a demolition permit of some type. And maybe that's a question for you, Chair, or through you, Chair, to the officer.
You can definitely do that offline.
Yes, certainly.
That's not the issue here.
Yeah, I can just confirm procedurally that the building order is not subject to this meeting, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions from the committee?
So I have a question for the chair. Fencing, is the area secure in any way right now?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is fencing around the site. There's chain link. There have been some holes punched into that chain link fence. But there is a fence around the site and there's gates.
Has there been any issues on the property as far as fire or anything? Is there any structures that basically are dangerous?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the building itself that was demolished as a result of a fire that occurred. That was itself the result of trespassing and activities occurring on the site. So the owner has been doing their best to manage that. There has been trespass. I mean, certainly the graffiti is an example of that there is still some occurring. I think this new order is going to, it sounds like, result in the need for additional measures to be undertaken to secure access to the site, which I'll be speaking with the owner about prior to this meeting.
So right now, is there some structure on the property that vagrancy could be occurring, people going in and hanging out in them at this point?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the owner has made an effort to block those entrances off. So there are a few structures and they're trying to limit access to those.
And from a security standpoint, is there someone checking this fairly frequently? See that boards are not being removed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, not more than once a month. When the maintenance contract is for someone to attend once a month. I'm not aware of a current security contract on the property.
Thank you.
Yeah, anyone? Mr. Storrs?
Just so I'm clear, and I'm sorry, the applicant's planner, I missed your name, sir, but why 6 months? What's the rationale for it taking 6 months?
Thank you. That's a good question. And through you, Mr. Chair, it's the community improvement plan application. We expect to take between 3 and 5 months. And we anticipate that it'll take about 4-ish weeks to secure a contractor and have the contractor do the clearing of the debris work. So 6 months gives us a little bit of a buffer. Should the community improvement plan application take a little bit longer or take a little bit longer to secure a contractor?
All right, so for the quick of it is that you're tying the funding of the clearance of the land into the application and subsequent construction of the land, right? And you're tying that all into the budget. And so you need the delay in order to put it into the budget for the funding.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. And I should clarify that brownfields funding, the way that it works is that it's not retroactive. So it's not like the owner could clear now and have that clearance be eligible for funding. The work has to take place after the CIP funding is approved.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, I just want that clarification. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So just for, again, clarification, is all the debris there subject to that? Or is there debris? Because I mean, obviously winters are going to be here very quickly. So even if you wanted to proceed 2 months from now, it's going to be a different challenge. So what can be removed earlier?
Through you, Mr. Chair, technically speaking, from an environmental perspective, I understand that the debris can all be removed now. But as the owner's intention is to remove that with remediation, none of that can be removed as it's all being tied into the overall remediation scheme. So what we can do now is maintain the shrubbery on the site, is that component, secure access and address any other issues around safety with the site. Those are items that can also be addressed now, but removal of debris would all have to occur after the brownfields funding is approved.
So it's more a case of budget than capability.
It's part of the overall economic analysis for the development, correct? Yeah. So the entire sort of financial modeling that's been done for this project has anticipated that all of the cleanup, all of the remediation would occur under the brownfields funding, and any work that occurs outside of that funding would not be factored into those performers and those economics that are part of the economic viability of the subdivision.
But it's currently in violation of the bylaws.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I do have a few questions. You mentioned you just hired somebody to cut the grass.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, and this is where I'm relaying my understanding. I'm not directly involved with the hiring of the contractor and so forth, but there has been someone hired to cut the grass and clear the shrubs as of August. And their contract was to do it once a month.
And the first complaint was in June, if I recall. Like, we have a time. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that would be correct. June 22nd, 2023.
Okay, so it took over a month.
I'm communicating through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding. It's possible that contract was in place. I haven't spoken with my client before August, and it was in fact related to the planning application, not to the property standards order. So there may have been action taken place prior to that I'm just not aware of.
Did you detect any action that was taken prior to your last inspection with regards to cutting of the grass?
As of my last inspection, which took place on October 2nd, Mr. Chair, I did not notice any progress with any grass removal, shrubs, etc.
So somebody was hired in August. Yes. They were supposed to come in once a month. Sounds like they should have had at least 2 times to do this, and nothing's been done. Do you have any evidence that a contract was in fact signed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just have, I mean, I give my client full weight when they tell me they've done something. I trust them, but I haven't seen the contract myself.
I'm finding it hard to believe. If they haven't done their job. If you have signed a contract, the evidence is that it hasn't been done. You said that it'll take about 6 months, 5 to 6 months to apply for this CPI funding. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to you, Mr. Chair. Not to apply, but the application we're expecting it to take 3 to 5 months for the CIP fund, like for the application itself. So the application is expected to come in again in the next week and a half. Once it goes in, we expect it to take 3 to 5 months for the staff review and then to work its way through council approval. And then we expect about a month to secure a contractor and have the contractor do the work, which is why we're asking for the 6 months to give ourselves a bit of a buffer.
If I got, okay, so 6 months would be the total, including those extra, that's the time that's delayed by council or anything like that.
That's right. It's also looking at the seasonality. We are coming into the winter. We anticipate that, should council approval come in January, we might need an extra month, maybe a little bit more time to secure someone to actually do the work.
And how long has the owner owned the property?
Through Mr. Chair, the owner, it has in some form owned it for, I want to say many years. I don't have a history. It's certainly prior to the planning applications taking place, which started, I think the background study started around 2020. And I know they've owned it for a long time. It's been in the family for a long time. I'm not sure when this specific owner owned it.
Councillor Mr. Hopp has his hand raised.
Okay. That's it for now. Councilor Mr. Hopp, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. Good questions. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure I understand the situation there. I do understand the economical plan as portrayed here. I just struggle a little bit that it is in this shape. I mean, that street is becoming an important street. A lot of people use that. There's a real perception created driving down that street every time people do from around the world, really. And I think that, yeah, is this the time now to discuss that, Mr. Chair, or when's a better way? Are we going to have another? Are we weighing the decision yet?
Sure. We can start that now.
Yeah, just for me, if it's going to be remain that way, I would suggest it be fenced off really high, not unable to look through it, to create a better situation. The bylaw exists for reasons, and I just struggle that the work could be cleaned up in my mind and invoiced or whatever, however that works. I imagine, I mean, the intentions of the funding for brownfields could be gained here, I think, but I won't get involved in that. It's a great area, it's a growing area, and to leave it that way feels very uncomfortable to me. And what I would say, I mean, even to say that, you know, they're going to look for a contractor, then you can have a contractor book now. You can have a contractor book now. You could. I know that. It doesn't take months. It's so, you know, it's just about doing things a little differently and right. And so unless I can hear other reasons, I you know, this is a great location. There's so many positives here. Why do we have to start off on a negative like that? I don't understand. I'll listen to my colleagues some more.
Mr. Storms.
Yeah. I have some of the same thoughts as my friend, the counselor. A couple things. I don't have any problem with the timing with respect to an exemption in order. I understand tying it into the financing. I see that all the time. I am concerned about the holes in the fence and the hole in the subfloor. I'm trying to think of a halfway solution insofar as because I agree with the counselor. Like, you can get some of these things set up ahead of time, contractors, etc., and put on hold. Like, what's wrong with coming back in a month and showing us the fence is up, fence is fixed, boards over holes, whatever you need to do to make it safe, because that's really what I'm concerned about. Okay, I do understand the financing, but I'm really concerned about the safety and the holes in the fencing, etc. And then once it's safe and the process is another month further along, if they can't keep it safe and there's more holes in the fencing and stuff, then I'm more inclined to be like, look, clean it up then, because if you can't keep it safe, you know, the funding's your problem. I mean, I do understand, sir, the tie-in with the funding, but if you can't keep it safe, then the having an extension is irrelevant because somebody's going to get hurt. You know, so I'm kind of thinking in that. Sorry, I'm not being eloquent in the way I'm putting this together, but those are sort of the initial thoughts I had when I was thinking about it.
Good. Anybody else from the committee?
No, I'd agree with Todd, but safety is paramount. So if it can't be secured and kept safe, then something needs to be done.
One quick question to the bylaw. The fence that's there now, how secure is it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would say it is not overly secure. Currently, there are a number of areas, including just off of Cataraqui Street where the fencing has been cut, as well as further down the city easement. And at this time, I believe there is pretty much unobstructed access through the grassy area off of River Street behind, where people have been using it as a throughway to come back and forth. If it helps, I believe slide number 8, the top right-hand picture kind of shows that path that people have been taking through this site as it currently stands.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. And what about the buildings? How secure are they? Is there any, are the boards up?
So on the existing structure that is left on the east side of the property, that building has been secured since we have started this process on our end. Initially, at least one of the bay doors there was left open and anybody could walk into that. Currently, the only real concerns are 2 smaller buildings that look like they have been used as a shelter, potentially by the unhoused, directly behind what was demolished. And again, the foundation of what was demolished, there are still concerns there with the fact that it wasn't left graded, level, and or backfilled. to where somebody could potentially, if they were to go out on that, if they were gathering scrap metal or walked through in the dark or anything else, where they could go through and potentially be seriously injured.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Piecing this in two sections. So I agree with the safety, the fence, that's all part of the requirement anyways, and then we have the debris. And it sounds like the debris, other than being tied to a budget plan, there's no reason why debris couldn't be removed sooner than later. Is that correct? The fencing, the security of the buildings, that needs to happen anyways. The debris is something additional. And if it's not part of the brownfield piece as far as specialized removal, it comes just down to a budget. So I'm inclined to think fix the fence, secure the buildings, fix it for safety. That has to be done for the next 6 months, whenever you get all the permits, but I'm inclined to think, a slight extension on cleaning out the debris at this point, but not 6 months. But that's just from putting it to the group.
Mr. Reason. In the event that it's secured, it's checked once a month, but in that intervening month, somebody breaks in, hurts themselves, maybe even dies there. And we have approved this security as opposed to making it safe, like flat. What is the city's liability in that case?
Through you, Mr. Chair. In my opinion, the risk of liability to the city is low. Obligations owed to visitors that come onto the land are owed by the occupier of the land under the Occupiers Liability Act. The city is an occupier of the land under that legislation. And also municipalities have a broad discretion in terms of how they enforce their bylaws. And provided that the municipality is making those decisions of how to enforce its bylaws in a way that that is in good faith and reasonable, courts aren't going to interfere with that exercise of discretion.
Okay, so low liability from our.
Yes, that's right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I would say that through you, I appreciate the suggestions and the discussion. I really like the idea of coming back in a month, reporting back to this committee with a progress report on securing the site. I could also provide an update on the community improvement plan and the process of that application. Maybe it goes faster and we don't have to ask for a full 6-month timeline. We could also look at engaging a contractor, and I could provide a bit of an update in that regard. So understanding that we are seeking, we're asking a lot from this committee. I think it's certainly more than fair for the applicant to meet you, more than halfway. And I can take this to my client certainly and ask him and have this conversation about what we need to do, what we need to show in this committee in terms of progress, in terms of securing the site, in terms of reducing the visibility of the debris from the street and so forth, and in getting a contractor lined up and providing an update in that regard. So if the committee would be open to that, certainly I would be supportive of a reduction of extending us a month to see and then having the committee deliberate on this again at that time, if that's an option.
Yeah, Councillor.
Councillor Sherhoff, go ahead. And then.
Yeah,
Councillor
thank you,
Sherhoff.
Mr. Chair. I support that. I would make a motion then to defer, if I could, Mr. Chair, for a 1-month deferral to give time for further work and analysis
Sorry, which
and
one?
progress.
Are you saying all of them? All of them? Or all 3 issues, or just the?
Yes. I
Okay,
think
I'm gonna.
so, yeah.
Do we have a second? Okay, sorry. Do we have a seconder to that?
Can I just make a comment first? I'm,
Sure.
well, I guess it was my idea, so I'm not gonna, I think it's a good one, I guess. But the one thing I will say is, and I need the clerk or chair to provide me or council to provide me with the authority, but while I'm happy to defer it, part of my thinking was I don't want the planner to go back to his client and say, we have a month to fix the safety stuff. Like in a month from now, I don't want to hear, yeah, there's still the holes in the fences and it's not boarded up. But we've got a guy now who's going to fix it. Like, I want that stuff fixed immediately, if not sooner.
Right.
Because my deferral of all of this is contingent on, I don't want to see massive holes in fences and open windows, and you know what I'm saying? So I don't know how to word that. I'm sorry, but one sort
support
of
that.
follows the other.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague there, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so if I may suggest, actually, just a question to you two. The grass cutting, do you really want to include that in the deferral? Because it sounds like they could have done that, they haven't done it, and that probably should be enforced.
Yeah, I guess I don't care either way, but if they've got somebody contracted to do it, then get them to go do it, right? I mean, one more cut, and unfortunately, we're at the time of season where it's probably not going to grow back anyways until next year. So fine, if you want to leave that part out, I'm not fussed about that part. Yeah, they should cut the grass.
Anybody, any comments on the grass?
Not on the grass,
Okay.
but I do have a comment on the debris,
Okay,
that we need movement on the debris prior to waiting for 6 months. If it can be removed, and my thoughts are up to 2 months for debris, plus the update
okay.
in a month on security and safety.
Yeah, I think the safety needs to be taken care of and the grass, because there is somebody hired to cut it. And then the debris, he provides a update at our next meeting. Defer that. for a moment.
Yeah, I
Okay.
struggle with putting a 2-month timeline on the debris, because if I'm understanding it correctly, it's all tied in with the funding. I understand what my fellow committee members talking about, but I think that was my idea was it was the purpose of coming back in a month, so that the process in and of itself has gone further down the path, and then they can tell us maybe they don't need 6, maybe they can have the whole thing done in 3, or the planner is free to correct me if I'm wrong, but that was my understanding of how the entire situation was working anyways.
Okay. So let's break this down to simple bits. The first item, the first item was we're having the graph. Okay, let's do the second item first. It's the easier one. From what I've heard from the committee, it sounds like we are okay with upholding that order. That would be item 2, the bylaw 4.42.3, grass longer than 20 centimeters, 8 inches, brush and undergrowth by cutting, regularly removing the cuttings from hands. This does not apply to agricultural properties. Needs to be fixed. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Do we need to break this apart like that and say?
We can do it as one, like,
Okay.
unless you want to vote on them separately.
How does the committee feel? Do we want to vote on these separately, or do we want to vote them all together?
I guess if somebody wants to vote against the majority and put it on record, we might want to do them individually, but I'm content so far.
Okay, so we'll put them all into one motion,
Yep.
and if we need to, we'll break it down by clause.
Okay.
So, first clause, that the item 2 be upheld. Okay, we're all okay with that, and we will vote at a later date. Item 3. The owner of vacant property shall maintain the property in accordance with this bylaw or demolish such buildings and the site left in graded and level condition in compliance with other parts of the bylaw. Removal of the debris is part of the CPI process. Is that correct, sir?
That's where, yes, the applicant is tying to the remediation funding.
The buildings are essentially unsafe. Is that correct? From the bylaw, Mr. Harry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would say the full building that is still standing on the east side of the property could be deemed safe at this time with what has been done as far as boarding and securing of that property. I would I would say with the remaining foundation and what's left of the other structure that was taken down, I would say that is currently in an extremely unsafe condition.
And would proper demolition of that make it safe?
Proper demolition through the full process as far as ensuring that the site was left grade, that the remaining foundation is either excavated or backfilled, and the remaining structures properly removed through all the relevant processes, I would believe that would make it safe, yes.
Thank you. Can you think of anything else that might make that safe besides the full demolition of the unsafe areas?
Again, I will defer a little bit of the safety bit to the City of Kingston's building department. I know with, and again, it doesn't apply to this committee at this time, but with the order to comply that was issued, some of the matters of fencing and proper security of that property will be addressed under that order to comply issued by building. And I believe that has been, the timeline for that has been made immediately. So that should be something that does assist to secure that property. Again, we can't cover all the eventualities, but that would definitely assist in making that site a lot safer than it is currently.
So may I sample the committee? How do you feel about fencing that particular aspect of the broken foundation that people could fall through as being sufficient? Is anybody in opposition to that? No. Okay, so with regards to item 3 then, may I suggest that proper fencing and what Mr. Harry had suggested as the second option be ordered? Sorry. The order is to maintain, is to put the fencing up, is that correct? So we're going to maintain, we're going to uphold your order on that. Is that what we're doing here?
So to speak to that section, Mr. Chair, the 4.47 section is to maintain a vacant property in its entirety with all components of the property standards bylaw, or demolish in compliance with bylaw, building code, demolition control bylaw, etc.
So, Mr. Chair, my suggestion, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Mr. Harry if he wasn't done. I thought he was done. Okay. Is not this, as it is tied into the order to immediately comply with the building department, I think Mr. Harry is saying is going to address some of the safety concerns that we have that are related to this particular order. So this is one of the ones that I would say is that we would defer for the month in order to see the ramifications for what the building department's doing. Because they have an immediate need, the owner has an immediate need to comply with that order. That is going to require fencing, boarding, et cetera, et cetera. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Harry.
No, that would be correct, Mr.
Right.
Sturts.
So,
Okay.
so that would mean a deferral is all I'm suggesting for a month. And that gives our friend, the planner, to give us an update and also them time to comply with the immediacy of the building department.
Thank you. That sounds actually reasonable. How do you feel?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
so item 3, we will defer for 1 month on condition that it is made safe ASAP. If there's any defects that were noticed in that particular dangerous area, we're not applying it to the entire property at this point, just the dangerous area that was identified by bylaw. Is that correct? Is that everybody in agreement, basically?
I would just recommend that, so it'll be 1 month extension to next meeting date, which is November 20th, but you should also put in an inspection date prior happening. So that's typically the Thursday before the meeting. So we would read a 1 month extension to November 20th with an inspection to happen prior to November.
Right, you are.
Okay.
Please make it so.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I should double check with Mr. Reason. Are we allowed to do that? Break up the property and determine a particular part being more important because of safety than the rest of the property for a month?
So, and through you, Mr. Chair, technically, in my view, the powers of the committee are to make a decision to either confirm, modify, or rescind the order. And so and this is a bit of a technical argument, but I think it's correct that if you make a decision to modify part of the order, the committee would be what we call functus officio, which basically means you've made your decision to modify the order in that one small way. And now you don't have jurisdiction to go back and change your mind or do different things.
Okay.
Now I appreciate that that's different maybe than how the committee has operated historically.
Well, so council, could we just instead of modify, could we not just defer it in its entirety to let the building department do their thing, but in deferring it, ask for another inspection the Thursday prior to the next meeting? And therefore we haven't lost any of our jurisdiction. The building department's been able to do their enforcement, and we've also allowed ourselves to have an inspection prior to the next update.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I would just also add that I think it would be perfectly fair of the committee to communicate its expectation to the appellant that it will consider the appellant's, whether or not the appellant can demonstrate that it's taken action, for example, on the grass cutting in every month. I think it would be fair to consider that at next month's meeting, when the committee does make a decision on the order.
Okay, so we won't break it up, but we will make it that we are communicating our intention to hear it again based on legal advice, that no change in authority has been granted, only a deferral of the issue. Are we all in agreement with that? It's a nod of heads at this point. Great. All right, so now the tricky one, number one, rubbish. Having solved the safety issue for 1 month, it seems that we can get an update in 1 month as well. And if it can't be maintained safely as a communication of the committee, I would find it very easy to say clean it up next month. If it is maintained safely over that period of the month, there's no broken fences, no access to the place. I understand there's unobstructed access currently. If that's demonstrated in a month, we may look at that again and be lenient on the timing. I think I'm seeing nods. Okay. Is that okay? And
So as my understanding is, you're upholding the timeline for compliance for item 2, which has to do with grass and undergrowth, and then extending the time for compliance to items 1 and 3 for 1 month, with the understanding of the site being secured and an inspection to happen prior to November 16th.
yes.
Okay.
And part of that inspection is to determine whether, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yes, please.
Go ahead, Steve.
Through your chair, hi, I'm Supervisor for Enforcement Services, Steve Mothersell. I just want to, address like this, if we're going to extend it, if you folks are going to extend it for a month and actually giving a time for Officer Harry to go back and do the inspection, we run the risk of folks still getting in that area prior to the 16th, and then whomever that's putting up this fence has an opportunity to fix that area just prior to the 16th. So I would recommend that we're able to do spot checks of that area so we can do our due diligence from our side of things to make sure that the fence isn't being broken into prior to the 16th as well.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I don't think this committee frankly has the authority to direct bylaw enforcement staff as to how they conduct inspections or conduct their enforcement activities. So I don't think, in any event, I don't think anything that the committee is deciding today would restrict bylaws' ability to go and do an inspection of the property.
Okay, so you have your authority and we don't have to touch that. And that sounds reasonable. Spot checks are even better than one final inspection. One final inspection before the next meeting would be ideal too. So I think we're good with that.
Yep, so you just need to move her in a seconder and then vote.
Okay, Councillor Surhoff, you moved it. Who would like to second? Sorry, Mr. Storms. Any more discussion? No? All right. All in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to 712 Victoria Street.
The officer has a presentation.
Okay, welcome back. And okay, Mr. Pappas, go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the welcome. I have been off for about 4.5 months with a brand new baby girl, so I'm just catching up on everything, and it's nice to see everyone here today. We are looking at 712 Victoria Street. Unfortunately, this is something that has been going on actually since January of last year, and so I'm hopeful today that we are able to ultimately confirm this order, and I have some reasons why that I'll go through. The presentation that I've prepared, the initial part of the presentation is the exact same, showing the initial photos. I'm not sure if the committee requires those at this time, or if we can skip to the reinspection photos. If I could have a,
please.
okay, excellent. Okay, so I'll pause on the timeline just for this moment. We initially came aware of this case in January of 2023 on the 9th of January, and a notice was issued, a property standards notice of violation was issued on January 10th. As a result of non-compliance with that notice, an order was issued, and we are here today with several extensions of that order due to various reasons. And so, like I said, today I'd hope to explain why we should confirm this order today. We can skip to the next slide. The new photos begin with a green background. Yes, okay, yeah, we've gone just 2 slides too far there. Back. There we go. Excellent, thank you. The exterior still is showing signs of bowing. We have received a engineer's report. I can touch on that a little bit later in this presentation. This photo showing that no work has been completed. Next slide, please. Difficult with the quality of this photo on the left. However, the black spots on the ceiling are mold. That is due to still a issue with water penetrating the unit, and there also is showing some water damage still on the baseboard and casing of the door frame on the right hand photo. Next slide, please. More damage still to the floor in the left photo at the bottom there, as well as the kitchen wall is slightly bowed, which is concurrent with the photos that I took initially. Next slide, please. Due to the water continuing to penetrate the unit, the floor has separated even more severely. And these 2 photos outline that quite well. Next slide, please. More of the same, however, on the right photo, there is a small cut in the drywall, which I'll highlight I believe in the next photo, possibly not. Okay, it'll be later. This is a fine example of the mold growth that's actually occurring in the unit. Next slide, please. Here's the photo of the breach in the fire separation. Fire prevention has been contacted, and we do have a fire prevention officer attending. I received an email this morning regarding that from our Chief Fire Prevention Officer. It appears that there was a leak from the upstairs unit that had been possibly, they had to have access through that area. So I made fire prevention aware of that immediately upon my inspection. Next slide, please. The floor is continuing to deteriorate in many parts of the unit, specifically the area between the kitchen and the hallway. Next slide, please. The one order that, or one item on the order that actually has been fixed is the plumbing from the sink that was not connected to the sewer system. It is now connected to the sewer system. However, the bathroom tap or the bathroom faucet to the tub does not shut off now, and so is constantly leaking. You can see that slightly in the photo on the right. Next slide, please. As you can see here, it has been hooked into the sewer system, and at the time of the inspection, I couldn't see any leaks from that, but she still did have a bucket there. So, next slide, please. During my absence, we did receive an engineer report, and I believe that was the reason for deferring to this meeting, that we go over that. Of course, I'm not an engineer. However, I read through the report, and the recommendation is fairly clear when it states that furniture and personal items should be removed from the apartment, and floor finishes need to be removed as well. Observation of the subflooring and the flooring system. So basically what they're saying is we need to have the tenant out of the unit to be able to get a full scope analysis of this unit and what is actually going on behind the walls, under the floors. Next slide, please. And so in terms of what I'm recommending today, and hopeful that the committee will agree, since January of 2023, the living conditions have deteriorated. Mold growth has been significant. There's now a possible breach in the fire separation, which fire is looking at. Non-structural violations have not been remedied, other than the tap going, or the drain for the sink going into the sewer system. And now that we are coming up to almost 10 months, actually we are over 10 months now. No, we're coming up to 10 months. The ability to proceed with enforcement action is becoming more difficult because we do have a statute of limitations. So I believe that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Mr. Storms, go ahead.
First of all, congratulations, Mr. Pappas, on the
Thank you.
on the new baby. This question's probably for council. Just, you mentioned the statute of limitations. Somebody remind me of how that applies in this. I know it applies, but is it 1 year, 2 year? I don't know. What's the statute of limitation?
You go ahead, Steve.
Would you like me to answer that question, Steve?
Yeah,
Okay.
Is it 1 year? Is it 1
yeah.
year from the
So
issuance?
it's 1 year from the city being made aware of the violation or the issue.
So first complaint.
Yeah.
Okay, and what
exactly.
date was the first? I know we've been seeing this since January, but what's the date of the first complaint?
Yeah. I would have to go back to look. I believe so. The first initial inspection was January 9th. I don't have the specific. I can look in my records though, in the City View case.
So best case scenario, we're looking at like there's really only 2 months left anyways.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
What happens in 2 months? Like, what happens? Does this mean that we can let this continue? We have to let this continue, or what? What happens in 2 months when the statutes of limitations and take effect?
Basically, the process begins again.
Like well, you guys have a council there, but my understanding is we have to start from scratch, don't we? But I could be
Okay.
wrong. Well, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer for this. So somebody, so somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
You were correct. So, sorry, Mr. Reason.
So through you, Mr. Chair, it is an offense under the Building Code Act to fail to comply with an order issued under property standards bylaw. It's an offense under our property standards bylaw as well. And the failure to comply with the order doesn't occur until the order is confirmed or modified by this committee and a deadline for compliance is established. And then the property owner, whoever is subject to the order, fails to comply with that deadline. So that really would be the triggering point for that 1 year limitation period to start counting, in my view.
Okay.
Arguably, it's a continuing offense because every day that they haven't done the work to comply with the bylaw is a fresh offense. So.
Okay.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
Different from what we heard earlier.
That's fine.
So-
I understand that. I understand that point that he made. That's fine.
I mean, as a point of clarification, it's also just an offense on its own to fail to comply with the standards that are in the bylaw, right? You don't need an order to comply in order to be charged with an offense under the property standards bylaw. So for that offense, the clock would start ticking. Well, the clock would have started ticking as soon as the property fell into non-compliance with the bylaw. But again, it's a continuing offense. Every day your property isn't in compliance with those standards in the bylaw is a new date of offense. So
Yeah, but isn't it actually, you know what? I was going to ask you a discoverability question. There's only 2 people on this call that care about those questions. So we're fine. It's fine. Yeah, I completely understand your point. It's good. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Oosterhoff, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the discussions here. I really appreciated the presentation from Mr. Pappas because that's what my questions were. He answered all my questions, so I'm looking forward to hearing from the owner of the building. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the committee? Okay, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a lot to add. I mean, honestly, I'm between a rock and a hard place as a landlord, abiding by the Landlord Tenant Act. Yes, I understand that it's offense to comply with the building order, but the building order is unattainable as I have to get access to the unit to do the work, and the Landlord Tenant Board has continuously delayed, and I would be breaking the Landlord Tenant Act rules by going and doing a remediation of the unit while somehow how the tenant is living there is impossible. It's at this point too, with the evidence of mold, it needs a proper remediation with a licensed company for that process, and they would need the whole place to do any kind of legitimate work there. So we've been to the Landlord Tenant Board hearing last month. Under the emergency process, because of the health and safety risks and because the building is, as you know, uninhabitable by any standards really, and they deemed it not worth even hearing the case that day, and they gave us they said they could reschedule within 3 months. So they didn't see it as being, from their perspective, dealing with that case that day. I know their caseload is backlogged. Everybody knows their caseload is backlogged. But we also have reached out to the Ombudsman of Ontario, their office, to file complaints to see if they can incite some more action in this process so that we can get in and do the work that you guys have asked us to do, and also the work that we want to do. We put forth an offer to get her out right in January, to get this process started right in January. It's not like we waited. We've pushed in every capacity that we had access to do so. The Ombudsman of Ontario, our representative, the person that we're dealing with there, has given some guidance on who to reach out to at the landlord tenant board to try to move this forward faster. She's filed inquiries on this on our behalf. We've gone to any length that's accessible to us to do this work, and I find it, heart-wrenching to see the condition of the unit the way it is. This is not something that I would ever want anybody living in. Every time I've had a unit turn over, I've gone to, full renovation mode to get it up to the highest standards for anybody moving in. And, that's just my process. So, and that's why I have a property management company. That's why they have people that go in and do the renovations, ongoing, like the minor fixes. And then, for this kind of scope, it's going to need a serious time and budget, really. So that's all I have to say on that.
Okay, before we get to you, we'll just ask any questions to the applicant. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, can I just ask what happened at the hearing? Was your case adjourned? It was postponed? What happened?
Postponed. They basically didn't have time to hear it. So
All right, did they give you a date for when it will
No,
be?
they won't give us a date. This is the landlord tenant board today. They
Right.
won't give us a date. We've reached out.
So we'll handle it in a second. Then I saw Mr. Storrs. Did you have your hand up?
I did, but is the tenant there?
Yes, we will be going to her in a moment.
I'll defer my question until I hear from the tenant. It's fine.
Go ahead. Okay, anybody else with any questions to the Councilor Oosterhoff? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. The question I have is just related. I understand very well that this is a big job, but I don't understand it completely, because I know this world and I know the world of construction, and I mean, a handyman could spend time there and make this place really passable I mean, you're going through a terrible time, and I empathize with you. I really empathize with the tenant. I don't know that situation of why, Mr. Chair, even if it was not possible, that you have a responsibility then to put them in a hotel unit for a week while the worst of the worst work gets done. There's a way to make this get done. I know it, I believe it, I know it, and I know it from a very, very high level. So there's just so in this situation, it's a really, really sad situation all around. And I think I'm empathize for the owner or the landlord, and also considerably for the tenant. So, but there has to be cooperation from both. Otherwise, there's a no-go at all. But I guess, but that's what I'm asking, Mr. Maybe from the landlord right now. Why hasn't that been done? Why is a tap not working? That frustrates me. That's not right. That's not right for anyone to live through that. And I just don't know why there's so many things that can be done that a handyman could just spend time and not interfere in the life of the tenant. And that's my question.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Again, the last time I was here, I guess that we dealt with the tap issue in the sink. Again, with the tub, I wasn't aware that there is a drip or something with the tap, and obviously, again, I will immediately after this meeting have a plumber come and order, through Panadu, my property manager, as I'm sure they weren't aware. I'll have them look into that to get that remedied. As far as the handyman going in there, I think we can all agree that it's not inhabitable. In that case, you need somebody who's qualified to be living or working in a mold infested area. No handyman is going to walk into that until it's been remediated.
Sure.
So,
One quick question. Did we hear that the tap had already been fixed?
Through your chair, the sanitary facility, so the sink was reconnected to the sewage system, but the tap, the tap of the tub has not been. No.
Okay, understood. Okay. Yes.
sorry, again, I wasn't there. So is the issue with the tap on the tub that it's not functioning and that it won't turn water on or off, or that it stays running, or that there's issue with the
Okay,
drain?
sorry. That's not part of the issue order.
Oh, I see.
So we're very happy that you will fix that. As it was just pointed out to me, that's not part of the order. Okay, any other questions from the committee to the applicant? None. Okay, let's hear it from the tenant. Go ahead.
I've got a lot of things to say, but I'm just gonna keep it short. Recently I had contacted Panadu because my oven wasn't working. I think I just needed a fuse or something. And he said he would take care of that right away. Nothing was done. Every time I contacted Panadu, nobody comes.
Okay, so that's not part of the order.
Okay.
The stove or oven. Do you have any concerns with
mold.
living?
I'm very concerned about the mold. It's coming through the drywall.
Mhm.
It's surrounding the windowsills. It's everywhere in the apartment. The bedroom I'm in, I've cleaned it a few times with bleach and such, but for my health, it's not good at all.
Okay.
I have asthma too, so that doesn't help. And I've been sick I've been there 15 years, so I've been sick on and off throughout the 15 years, and I am concerned. So other than that, there's a lot of other problems, holes in the floors. I've got a bug infestation as well that they've had two exterminators come twice to get rid of them. They're still there. And we've asked for them to come back, and they basically, once we get the girl downstairs out, then we'll have them come in.
Okay. So the main violation, or these are the ones highlighted in yellow, is that correct? That are outstanding?
The ones that are still outstanding, just to confirm, are items 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. The only ones that have been dealt with are items 3, 4, and 5. All the others are subject to this current appeal.
Okay. And the engineering report was for item number 10, is that correct? I believe that's what it said in the engineering
Yes,
report.
9 and 10.
Oh, 9 and 10?
9 and 10 are linked to the structural engineering report.
Right, okay. So the engineer's report says that it needs to be vacant for a number of weeks. What are the thoughts on the committee here? Mr. Storms.
Look, I'm sympathetic to everybody, tenant and landlord, and I do some stuff from time to time with the landlord board, and I understand the delays. I really do. And it's a tough situation, but I like when I'm listening to all this and I'm reading it, quite frankly, I have to agree with Mr. Pappas. I think we've gone now, this would be the 4th deferral. If we defer anything, the place is getting worse, not better. I understand the logistical issues, but there's as Councillor Osterhoff has suggested, there's remedies to that as well. I think everything in this situation needs a push, and I think the push is compliance. It might even, and I don't know this for certain, but it might even create more of an emergency situation for the landlord to go back to the landlord tenant tribunal and say, now we've got this order of compliance. I'm not saying it will, but it's another tool in his arsenal in order to go back to the landlord, to the tribunal to try and unblock the log jam, because I know they're way behind. I read the stuff from the ombudsman that was provided. I understand the situation, but to me, I'm not comfortable at all with another extension, the fourth extension on a property that's clearly deteriorating and possibly causing health problems for the tenant. So I'm comfortable with adhering to the recommendation of Mr. Pappas. And those are my thoughts on it.
Thank you. Okay.
One question.
Yes, please go ahead.
My lawyer's here, and do you have any questions for them as well? My lawyer.
Oh, okay. Hi, that's who you
Good
are.
evening, Mr. Chair. My name is William Florence. I'm the Case Community Legal Clinic. This is Sarah Ho. She's an article student. We represent Ms. Little at the Landlord Tenant Board for the patient that's been referred to. We are here for if you have any questions of us about that proceeding. Further, just a quick comment. We just do support Ms. Little in requesting that sort of any non-structural things that can be dealt with immediately, such as mold, are dealt with immediately. Like, so whatever can be done now, she requests that it be done as soon as possible. And so if you have any questions for us, we're here. Thank you.
It sounds to me like she may have to vacate for a period of time. The engineer's report said, what was it, 3 weeks or 2 weeks? Can you remind me who read this?
I don't remember, I've got it here.
I don't believe there was a timeline
Wasn't there?
report for how long it would take to complete the process.
Did I imagine that then? Okay. From your professional experience as fixing these kind of things as a property manager, how long does she need to be out of her unit in order to basically gut the place and make back into at least livable conditions?
Well, I think it's hard to know exactly, because again, once we remove the drywall, we may find that the framing needs to be repaired or replaced. You know, there may be some issue with the concrete underneath the flooring. I don't know we're gonna find. That would change the number, but it could be a couple months. You know, could be 3 months. I'm not sure. It's you know, it really, you don't know until you get into it. Obviously, while we're into it, we'll want to make sure that everything's done right. We want to update the electrical and the plumbing and make sure that everything is top tier. So it takes time. It takes time to physically do the work. I do the work as well, renovator. So I know it takes time to do the work. It takes time to get approvals for the permits. It takes time to I don't do everything, so obviously hiring the relevant people to get them in will take time and time for them to coordinate. So you know, when I give you a number, it's best guess, but again, also based best case scenario. I don't know, and we've applied to the landlord tenant board in already E1, which is saying that the actual the tenancy itself is frustrated. Contract law, it's been frustrated, so that the basically nullifies the lease, because you know the other application we had pushed forward was the A13 or the N13, which was renovation and for some renovations to be done to let her back in, and then she fought that. So I don't know what direction it's going to happen with the landlord tenant board. And I don't know how to give you a timeline exactly, but that would be once she is out completely and her stuff is out completely, then we would, you know, then have an idea of how long it's going to take.
Okay, so at this point, it sounds like your hands are tied with an eviction. So you are, as I see it, stuck with her. And until they say otherwise. And you have a health and safety area there with mold. So it sounds to me like you may have to put her up in a hotel or a motel, fix the place and bring her back in unless the tribunal says otherwise in the intervening time. Does anybody on the committee see otherwise?
Can I just ask
Please.
Ms. Little, what would be her preference? How would you like to
I do
proceed?
want to leave the building. I do. I just don't have anywhere to go. I can't afford a lot of places right now. I'm on disability. Fixed income. And like I've been here 15 years. Unfortunately, I don't have any house contents in terms. So all of them, I think, are destroyed. I'd like to move out, find somewhere else. But I need the financial part to get me there.
How much compensation would you need?
I did file a maintenance form with the tribunal back 7-8 months ago, which they didn't receive. They took the $48 fee out of my account. And then by not my awareness, and they had put it back into my account, so it didn't go through. So I'm working on getting the maintenance done now. I've been trying to get them to work in there quite some time and nothing's happened. So I do want to move out because the mold and the bug infestation is horrible.
So I just want to come back to the authorities of the committee, basically, and although this is. We've been going through this quite a while, right? But we're also not here to negotiate
No.
component. So we empathize all around. But I'd like to put a motion to confirm the order.
Okay.
Okay.
Comments, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was seconding. Sorry if I jumped the gun, but.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So as I've been advised, we can't dictate to you how you're going to handle this. Judging from being a landlord at the same time, it sounds like you may have to take care of our housing needs while you're fixing this. It seems that the committee is at least has consensus that you're gonna have to get something done in the next little while. How you do that, it's up to you. We can't dictate that to you. Any other comments from the committee?
Need to vote.
Nope. So we call the question now, confirming all the orders. All in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. We can't delay this any longer. It has to be done. How do you do that? You have a lawyer there to help. It has to be done somehow. Okay. Motions, none. Notice motions, none. Other business, none. Correspondence, none. Date of next meeting will be November 20th, 2023 at 12 noon. Yep. Now I would like to move adjournment. Suspense.